Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Case for Construction Culture podcast, balancing safety and profitability. I'm here with Brad Kramer from Minnesota, who is the founder, president, and CEO of Provenio Consulting. And Brad, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Hi, Tom. Thanks for having me here today.
Yeah, Brad is an interesting guy. He's really committed to safety. He's very knowledgeable about technical stuff. He does a lot of fractional safety management, and he's all over the country, based here in Minnesota. A lot of your work is in Minnesota, though, right, Brad?
Yep, this is kind of our home base. So, yep.
Yeah, yeah. But you're a guy who really understands both the technical aspects of safety and your training on lockout procedures and everything else. Has Whopper, hazmat stuff, DOT compliance. You're just a varied, eclectic safety generalist, but you also really understand the cultural communication stuff, right? That's a
Well, I
passion.
try.
You try, you try. So it's a pleasure to have you. What are you excited about this year, Brad? As you're building your business, growing it, looking forward to projects you're doing. What are you looking forward to? What are you hopeful about this year?
I think a kind of a few different fronts. I think just on the industry wide, I think there's just a lot of exciting opportunity out there in the sense of, a lot of things are moving forward in industry changes and stuff like that to figure out, okay, which way is everything going to try and get ahead of the curve. And So I think it's just been very interesting that way. On my business side, kind of behind the scenes, is I'm finally getting that point in business where you get a few more options and stuff like that. I've bootstrapped it for so many years now that finally getting to the point where I can say invest in a few things or try a few things and stuff like that, or get into different opportunities that a few years ago I may not have had the resources to pursue those projects. So it's just been a really fun time.
What are some of those new things you're pursuing?
Well, for one thing, just getting into different types of businesses that maybe a few years ago would have almost been a pipe dream, like getting into Amazon and writing lockout procedures, getting into some more like tech companies. Like Niron Magnetics would be one of them. They're the first non-rare earth magnet manufacturer in the world that's kind of cracked that nut to get us away from like China's rare earth elements that industry and defense currently needs to produce magnets. So writing their emergency response plans and stuff like that. So it's just been getting into, I would say, your outside of the norm types of
Hmm.
safety projects.
Boy, that's exciting. Amazon, Niron Magnetics. I believe Niron's in Minneapolis, correct?
Correct. Yep.
I'd
Yep.
like
They're
to learn
started.
more about anybody who's cracking the code for magnets that don't come from the earth. It's got to be an interesting group of people.
Yep.
Got to
They have a
look
lot
into
of.
Niron. Excellent. How about challenges, Brad? Either as you're building culture and doing safety things, or in your business, what are maybe one or two challenges you're seeing this year that you got to gird your loins for and really go after?
I think just probably the likely changes coming to OSHA. None of us in industry know exactly what direction the feds are going to go regarding OSHA. In my opinion, OSHA needs kind of a good cleaning up, so to speak. They're still back kind of in the way of doing business in the 70s.
Hmm.
So a lot of improvements needed. Where that's going to go, I'm not quite sure, but I'm just trying to read the writing on the wall as fast as it shows up and see where we go from there. But if done right, it's going to create more opportunity for industry and create more of I would say, a good focus on safety that's
Sure.
more of a relational between the employers and employees.
So I'm not super familiar with some of the technical stuff with OSHA, and I do know OSHA moves like a tortoise generally. Brad, is OSHA going to move more quickly for some reason this year?
Well, I think it's not quite so much how fast they're going to move, but what comes out of every year legislators throw stuff in, bills in that they're not going anywhere, right? So it's garnered a lot of headlines. A congressman, I believe from Arizona, tried to put forward a bill to abolish OSHA. Not going to happen. Um, but what I do potentially see happening is basically getting back down to what are the core regulations. OSHA and the Chevron Supreme Court case from, I think, his last summer is going to have some implications on OSHA regulations. How much latitude does OSHA have to interpret their regulations? Or do they got to go back and actually create regulations that are far more specific? Um, so just kind of how that conversation works out is going to be,
Sure,
there's a lot of moving parts there that are going to impact how OSHA
sure.
operates.
Does the current presidential change impact any of that, Brad?
Oh, definitely. Yep. I
Yeah.
believe it does.
Yeah, and it's not a politics show, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on that someday. But I want to stay focused on safety culture and challenges. What are any other challenges you see, either with your clients or your business, in addition to OSHA possible changes?
Well, I think for one thing, just how do we grapple with new technology coming out there? I mean, not just on the sense of say on the computing side like AI.
Yeah,
I think there's going to be potential for like AI to assist with helping to write a safety program, but I don't foresee AI replacing what I do,
yeah,
or what safety, a good safety manager in a business, something like that. I don't, AI is not going to replace that. It's going to be a tool in our tool belt. So,
sure.
for example, um, if I just ask AI, and I've tried several different platforms and stuff like that, if I
Yeah,
say, can you write a fall protection program or any type of program,
yeah,
it missed the mark by a mile, right?
yeah,
If I didn't know the safety regulations and understand the industry,
yeah,
what it spit out at me, if I just took that as, oh, good, I got a program here. If I was, let's say I'm a plant manager and I didn't have experience with safety and I wanted to write a safety program on the cheap and I tried to plug it in that way and say, oh, here's my program. There is a lot that's going to be missing in that program.
yeah,
Now, where I can use is I'll write a program, I'll maybe run it through AI and
yeah,
ask for, can you help me with brevity? Can you help me with, is there anything missing? Is there anything with formatting? So it can smooth it for me, but it can't write it for me.
sure.
So, like on the AI front, I see that happening. New technologies, like I was mentioning with Niron, I mean, they're into new processes, for example, and other businesses I'm dealing with kind of have the same thing where there's maybe not a current standard that applies to what they're doing because it's so far out of what NFPA is writing for their NFPA standards and stuff like that. Nanoparticles, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. It's keeping ahead of where the regulations aren't even there yet.
Hmm. Wow, interesting. So how about Brad? I mean, those are very interesting comments you just made. You're super knowledgeable, obviously, about a lot of things, but AI, some of us worry, is it going to replace me? We're all praying and hoping it won't replace us, but I absolutely agree with you. There's so many things that AI is not going to, at least in the short run. We don't
Mhm.
know where AI would be in 5 or 10 years. It may very well replace both of us, Brad. And I'm sure we'll figure things out. But I'm also wondering about culture, since this is a safety culture podcast, and I know, care a lot about culture. When I say the word culture, and you think about safety and what you're doing every day, and the consulting you do, and the technical stuff and the human stuff, what do you think of when I say culture? What is culture, according to Brad Kramer?
Well, when we think of culture within a business, it's when we look around us that you're in a business and your coworkers, your managers, it's the habits that we have in place
Hmm.
and the values that we agree on. Those values may not be stated on the wall. I'm like right now, I'm helping a big defense contractor come up with their, as far as safety goes, their like motto or mission statement,
Uh-huh.
their values,
Yeah.
their habits, and
Wow.
building that into a cohesive safety culture. So where that, what we have as values, if we have the values on the wall, like for example, the picture of the guy who's, standing on stair railing, leaning over and tacking up a banner that says safety first. Well, if our value that we're tacking on the wall is safety, yet we're doing something unsafe to do that, safety really isn't a value in that sense. So looking at, okay, if our values stated on the wall are ethical, integrity, creativity. And let's say creativity, you throw out new ideas and everybody gets angry at you, like, oh, we've always done it this way. We don't need anything new. Well, creativity isn't one of your values, and it's a
Hmm.
word on the wall. The
Hmm.
culture is how those things really play out. What values we hold, not just
Hmm.
what on the wall, what we do as a business, what habits we have. So, for example, if I come in every day and I do a forklift inspection, then that's a habit. If we do safety inspections of the plant floor or the construction site or whatever once a day, once a week, that's a
Hmm.
habit. Those habits and those values really define our culture. How do we behave?
Hmm.
What can I count on from you? And what can you count on from me? That's our culture.
Yeah, the culture is really defined by behavior, isn't it? You can see culture in action. The best definition I think I've heard is yeah, culture, Tom, that's the way it is around here. It's what people do. But of course, it's built by those values. It's built by beliefs. It's built by what the leaders allow or don't allow, right? Because the owners and the leaders can decide who to hire and fire and promote, and they shape the culture. I often, and I'm sure you do too, hear from people, our guys aren't accountable. They don't do it. It's these guys. These guys are just not doing it. And I have to sometimes deliver the news that these guys are being trained in by you.
Yep.
Right? You shape the culture. So how about the tension between safety and profitability? I think some injuries and deaths, you and I both know, happen because the push to produce is too hard, or the workers themselves feel like it's not worth it to do it the right way. It takes too long. The job won't be profitable. Some of the superintendents are owners or part owners,
Mm-hmm.
and they really care about the bottom line. How do you see that tension between safety and profitability? Do you talk much about that or see that as a problem?
Safety, when done right, should lead to far more profits. So they should not be butting heads. They
Hmm.
should be, part of one business system.
Yeah.
And, Tom, before I got into really starting my business, uh, years back, I got my bachelor's degree of business and a concentration in finance. I always wanted to start my own business. And a
Yeah.
lot of business owners lose their business because they don't understand the numbers and some bookkeeper did shady stuff, whatever, there goes my business. I didn't want to
Yeah.
be in that
Yeah.
role. But what that did for me is really help me understand the numbers in a business. So when I got into being a safety manager, my projects had a higher ROI than almost any other manager in the plant and across several different plants I worked in. So I was right up there at the plant engineer in most of those business doing like continuous improvement and projects that had a really high ROI. Safety
Hmm.
was when I see a safety problem where there's smoke, there's fire. So when we think about if we have a really labor intensive job, let's
Hmm.
say you're the guy stacking uh, concrete sacks onto a pallet,
Hmm.
right? Construction site, and
Hmm.
they got to get forklifted over whatever you're stacking that,
Hmm.
and that's kind of a job.
Hmm.
Well, whoever does that job, they probably have a sore back every day. They probably hate that job with the passion. That's probably the job that you're most likely to have to find somebody else to do, like the guy that usually does that called in sick or whatever the case
Yeah.
may be.
Yeah.
Well, when I start looking at that job, I don't just see here we have an ergonomic issue. I see here we have a job that's causing your workforce to hate this job. So they go to break and they tell their buddies, I hate what I'm doing.
Hmm.
It's probably the slowest and manual labor intensive job out there that has potential for being more efficient. You
Hmm.
probably get more, say, errors out of it, not just errors like how do you make errors? Well, counting how many bags you have on a pallet. It might
Hmm.
be more cut open pallets or bags or whatever the case may be. So there's usually a number of problems
Hmm.
that safety is kind of like the big red flag,
Hmm.
but the other problems come from the same root cause.
Hmm.
So if I look at that project and say we have a problem with safety, but safety is just one metric of this, and we find a better way to do that. It might be automated. We might decide we don't even need to do that. We might order super sacks rather
Hmm.
than bags.
Hmm.
Um, but there's probably going to be a solution out there that's going to
Hmm.
solve your employee morale issue. It's going to solve the safety issue. It's going to solve your quality control issue, your
Hmm.
productivity issue. And that's how I look at most safety projects. It should make you a better business.
I love that story. That is so great, Brad. The sacks, the super sacks. That could be the solution right there. And sometimes we in construction lose our creative juice because there's so much pressure, because of weather, because of so many different challenges with finishing jobs and changes in the jobs and personnel. I mean, there's so many different challenges in construction. We sometimes don't think about doing that. So you're the guy who comes in and says, hey, there's another way to do it. Hey, you don't have to sacrifice profitability, but you
You
might
know,
need to think about doing it a different way. You might need to change, or as somebody said, nobody likes change. So now we call it enhancements. We're going to enhance that job. We're now ordering super sacks. They cost more, but they're going to save us time and money in the long run, because of this and this and this. I love it. So do you have any other story you can tell of a successful change effort that you've been part of, Brad? I know you help in a lot of different industries, including construction, including manufacturing, including municipal and others. Anything in those worlds, without getting you or anybody fired or naming anyone, can you tell a story where something has gone well, or even more interesting to me, when something has not gone well in terms of safety and culture?
sure. I think one that comes to mind, this would be when I was a safety manager of a food manufacturing plant. And when I first started in that role, and I kind of took what I learned in this project
Yeah.
and helped my clients currently with it. But this is a good kind of foundational story. So as safety manager, I come into this business. We have a couple hundred employees, and part of my role, or part of what they wanted from me, was to make the new hire orientation a one-on-one training, or classroom training, rather than put on a video or use the software that everybody watches videos, takes quizzes. They wanted
Mm-hmm.
an interactive training, engaging
Mm-hmm.
training. Great. That I wanted to do that.
Mm-hmm.
What I recognized was every Friday I was doing new hire orientation. Took about half of my day, if not more.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say we had three people in orientation. Two of them were probably gone by the end of next week.
Mm-hmm.
Just is at a really high turnover time.
Mm-hmm.
This was before COVID even.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I can't do my safety job because, well, I would say I can't do my safety job, but I'm having to take almost a day every week. So that's, 20% of my time doing new hire orientation versus being out on the plant floor, working on projects, fixing
Mm-hmm.
issues, working with employees, working with management. And so going to HR and say, why do what's going on here that we have this issue that I trained three people and two of them are gone next week? Why
Mm-hmm.
can't we? One of the safest places I've worked is to this day, probably one of my favorite jobs I've ever had at that plant. Um, good culture, a lot of good things going on.
Mm-hmm.
What I recognized was we were getting the bottom of the barrel as far as new hire employees
Mm-hmm.
because we weren't getting the message out there who we were as an employer. The community was hearing maybe our safety record from 10 years ago. If an employee got fired for, not doing their job correctly, they go home and they don't tell their neighbors, I got fired because I couldn't show up on time. I got fired because, you know, I reported an injury or something like that. Just something
Yeah.
that was
Yes.
our reputation in the community wasn't who we were.
Yeah.
So we're HR. We put a lot of focus on, getting into parades and promoting our safety culture. I did a community and safety day where we invited the community and employees, families, and stuff like that. Had a cookout. Fire department brought bouncy houses. Had
Right.
vendors, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we really put a lot of focus. We got the Governor's Safety Award and then did a press release to the newspaper. So we did a lot of outreach to potential employees in the community about our safety program. And it wasn't the technical, this is our mod factor, this is our numbers. No, it's
Yeah.
just more organic.
Yeah.
A few months later, my problem with having to do safety training every week is gone. Maybe once a month doing a new hire orientation, and we got good employees. Those employees that went through that orientation stayed. So HR's metrics, great. I mean, no, they were no longer spending all their time trying to hire and retain employees and recruit new ones. They
Mhm.
were meeting their objectives, and it just had to do with how we marketed our safety. So that, well, one good example, we're just a little tweak in how we do those things. I mean, every business, I wouldn't say many businesses out there, their biggest struggle is recruitment, keeping and hiring good employees.
Absolutely. I love the story, Brad. That is such a great story, and it's so you. I mean, that's how you op. I can see your footprint on that story, and
Thank you.
you called it a little thing, but it's a significant thing, and I'm sure it required a lot of hours to get the fire department and the bouncy houses and the parades and to change a reputation, even in a smaller town, that can be a heavy lift. So.
Yep.
I don't want to underestimate for those listening that doing something like that can be, especially in the modern day of social media. All it takes is a couple of people posting online how nasty and unsafe your company is to create an impression, right? But because what do they say? If somebody has a bad cup of coffee, they tell 15 people. If they have a good cup of coffee, they tell no one. Like
Yep.
then the negative gets better press, especially with our social media world. So that's a lovely story. It's a powerful story, and it's going to impact safety because when you have better workers and a more consistent culture, not only is HR happier, the safety director is happier, and the owners are happier because it's going to return greater results. And it is definitely the big challenge that I see finding and hiring quality people and keeping them.
Yep.
So that's a lovely story, Brad. Any final word from you before we wrap things up here today? Any thoughts about safety or culture or anything else?
Well, I think just kind of to what you do with safety leadership. Most of the time, if I have a client that I'm coming in, I'm writing their safety programs, I'm doing their safety training, all that kind of stuff, and it's failing, like it's not being followed through. Or
Mm-hmm.
if I'm doing the training and I recognize that say the supervisors are like, I'm just not going to have time to do this. My next referral is usually going to be a leadership coach.
Mm-hmm.
And what I find is, I introduce a leadership coach, usually a local one to that business that I know, and they'll start working with management and supervisors, developing them. And within a few months, it completely changes our safety culture because now all of a sudden the leads, the supervisors, the managers, even to some extent all the workers, the employees that they may not be, say, responsible for leading, but
Mm-hmm.
when they start learning these concepts and understanding the workplace and culture, the safety program, kind of takes care of itself. They're not putting out fires as a leader. They're doing their job in leading.
So great. It's so great that you get the technical stuff so well. And you sometimes are doing the leadership culture change. You're sometimes doing the work that I do full time. You sometimes are doing that, right, in your work.
Mhm. You
And then
bet.
sometimes you refer them to leadership coaches. So great, Brad. What an honor to be with you and get some of your time today. And how can people find you, Brad, and Provenio Consulting?
You bet. So you can give me a call, 507-369-6050, or online, www.provenioconsulting.com, or you can scan this handy dandy QR code. It'll take you right to our website. A
Love it.
few different options if you want to go to our LinkedIn, email, all that. So
Love the
scan the QR code, it'll take you right there.
Love the QR, old school and new school all in one, Brad. You got the phone number. I'm sure you and I both prefer the phone and a handshake and a good old fashioned face to face cup of coffee. Check
Yep.
out Brad and Provenio Consulting. He's doing some really good work out there, folks. And thanks again, Brad. Good to have you.
You bet. Let's